here we are back with the Club Cab, this drivetrain transplant, which honestly at this point I regret doing. But I mean, it's gonna be cool when it's all done, but still, it's just been a pain in the ass. So as you can see, the front clip is off. Well, because I had to pull the engine out again because I had an oil leak, and I never had antifreeze in this thing, so this thing never ran that long, but it'd still leave a pretty good puddle. So it was something pretty serious. Well, as it turns out, it was as much as I hated to pull this engine out, it was going to happen eventually anyway. So it turns out the oil pan gasket in the back, there's that seal that kind of runs underneath the back of the, like where it holds in the rear main seal, that had a slice in it. I don't know how it got there, whatever. So that's what was leaking. But in the process, you know, I cleaned the motor, I painted it, but there was still a rust stain, you know, kind of right behind the starter next to one of the frost plugs. So I started doing a little more investigating, and this is what I found. Yeah, this is the one. Oops. So you can kind of see a lot of daylight coming through there. There's a bunch of gook behind it that was still kind of wet and gooey, which was weird. So I replaced that one, I replaced all of them, and then the frost plug between the engine and the transmission, you know, you can see all the daylight behind that one too. As soon as I tapped that with the chisel pop, that just blew apart. So those two frost plugs should have been, I mean, they were bad to begin with, but yet they weren't giving any sign. That whole corner of the block back in here was just gooked full of crap. I mean, it looked like something the cat leaves in the litter box. I mean, it was disgusting. So at any rate, I got it fixed. I replaced every other frost plug I could get at the time. So all those are good. And those are the only two that were bad. But anyway, oops, let me, there we go. Take care of that. So while this was out, I took the opportunity with good access to get some stuff done. I finally got my brake booster, my master cylinder in. I don't have brakes bled yet, but this was difficult. I will never put headers on anything ever again in my life. What a pain in the ass these things have been. Like, putting this stuff back on was a pain in the ass because I couldn't get to anything. Just getting them in and out was a pain in the ass. Just all kinds. And then the kick down, I got to change some stuff on the bottom of the kick down where the adjustment is. Can barely get to that because of headers. So the other thing, the throttle is almost done. The throttle cable itself, I'm talking, on the inside, I had to use the original to this engine because that's the only way it hooks up on the actual throttle body. But then it doesn't really work very good on the inside, but that's fixable with some stuff. So then the other thing I had to do, which I knew I had to do anyway eventually, is the oxygen sensor. And I put it, you can kind of see way down in there, kind of at the tail end of the header. I should have maybe brought it a little farther forward, but at the time I didn't know where exactly to put it. Originally, it was on the manifold on the driver's side. Well, there's so much going on over there, I didn't want to muddy it up with the oxygen sensor. Moved it over to here. Those wires are right here. You can kind of see, and they just loop back around and down there. I'm gonna see if I can tie them up a little bit better somewhere up in there. I'll figure that out. They're far enough away from all the exhaust, but initially they had to come through here and loop down around there. So I had access, I was able to do that. Added about 18 inches of wire, 2 foot of wire, give or take, because I've peeled them back. I would have liked to peel them all the way back to this connector, but a couple of the wires tap in and split off here, I suppose, the ground wires or whatever they are. So you know what, it is what it is. If I was going to do this project again and do it really nice, I would, even before I put the harness back in, I would have taken all that apart and gone through that whole process. So everything is hooked up. I got my vacuum lines all hooked up the way they're supposed to be now. Obviously I don't have any heater hoses in there because some of it's got a mount in there. I've got to thread all my wires through. I got a antenna base that actually is hooked up. This was hanging loose. I grabbed onto it and it literally just fell apart like that. So that's done. So the next step is to put the front clip on. Actually, almost the next step. The next step, really, I'm going to take the tranny cooler out. It leaks something fiercer no matter how tight I've got it. I'm just going to take it out. I don't think it really needs an extra tranny cooler anyway. I'm going to take it out, and then if I need it again, or if I think I do, if I'm going to start doing a lot of pulling with it, I'll put one in. There's plenty of space there. I actually have one out of an 80 sitting over there. 80s, something in the 80s. That'll fit. It's the hoses are different, but again, like I say, if I decide to put it in, I will deal with all that stuff later. But so then the other cool thing you may have noticed is my little tool here, my picker-upper tool. So once all the mechanicals are disconnected, there's like, what, 8 screws and 14 bolts, and the whole front clip comes off as a unit. I've done this many, many times. I finally now have something that I can hook up to it, pick it up, nice. And I've got holes in it. It actually balances really good. I do have the front sitting on jack stands just for stability, so I can get some of this stuff out without it flopping all over the place. I'll take the tires off, and I'll pick it up and I'll just set it right in there. If it's a 4-wheel drive, you can do the same thing. Sometimes the shock mount gets in the way a little bit of the, let's say, the back edge of the inner wheel wells, but it still works. Okay, if you're gonna build one of these things for yourself, learn from my fail. So I've lifted these off before, but I've lifted, like, the pull point was always like higher, like, you know, this high or higher, pulling more straight up. The problem was I was having the back was getting pulled in. Even though the hood is there to help stabilize everything, it was still getting pulled in. I was having a heck of a time getting it around, you know, this up here, and both sides scratched a little bit. You know, I'm not too worried about it because this truck is not without its cosmetic indiscrepancies, shall we say, already. But I got it on there. Way easier than finding about four friends to lift this thing on and tip it in there as you're, you know, lining everything up. So, but I got it on now. I just got to put it back together, bolt everything down, I mean. And so let me show you how my front clip lifter works. I mean, it's pretty simple, but so I took one of the bolts out of here, which these are in backwards and they're not the right hardware anyway. Not in the washer back here, and on this end I took one of the hinge bolts out and just threaded this in there, jam nutted it on, poof, done. That simple. And then the right number of links of chain, so this is pretty centered, so I can hook up wherever I need to based on balance, and just like that.